Yeah.
We are now.
Dear Jesus, we thank you for this time to gather together. We thank you for this opportunity to serve the interest of the public. Thank you for all of us who are willing to do the hard jobs. And Lord, just bless each one of us for our families. And thank you for the time that we are gathered here together, and pray that you give us wisdom and discernment and understanding to know your will in all things, and to be able to come to a amicable solution that is best for the citizens and all parties involved. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Approval of the minutes from October 15th.
So moved.
Can I second? Second.
I'm going to vote no on the approval of the minutes since I wasn't here. So.
Well,
Abstain or no? No.
I vote no.
Vote no. How's that work?
Based on reading.
Okay.
All in favor of approval of the minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed?
Public comment? Okay. Old business, which probably kind of ties in with new business at this point. So, Anthony, do you have a copy?
I do.
Okay.
We brought copies, and if you pass those out, Dennis. And this is a draft, and you can take it and do what you want with a really a policy for using it and who's responsible for using it. And I think it's really at the commission discretion, because it is committee meetings. And you know, there's no funding that's been appropriated with it, so you're looking at IT. Those people are usually compensated pretty highly for having somebody that you would want to just show up after hours and run some kind of recording system. So I think by talking with planning, with IT, of course, talk to the county attorney, that this is a way to get the job done. And of course, it would involve not a whole lot of training, right, Dennis? But some training as to how to use the equipment. And then basically, to cut to the chase, it would basically make the commission chairman of each committee responsible, and then they could choose a commissioner, or they could decide they wanted to run the equipment and just pick it up, bring it, and then at the end of the evening, we'll have a place to put it, and then Dennis can download it out of IT. And so it's a real simple process, and then there's no budgetary impact from doing it that way. So this is about as good as we can come up with for a procedure, and it kind of lays it all out. And then, of course, the way I think the resolution's written, that's all really depending on what the chairman or commissioner wants to do. Whether it gets recorded, doesn't get recorded, that's at their discretion.
I would have an objection to that, it being at the chairman's discretion, given the intent of the resolution that we passed, in terms of committing to a process that allows for the recording and doesn't leave it to individual chairs to decide to or to not to record. I don't think we meant to leave that door open. I'm not, obviously the resolution is not contractual or binding or legally enforceable in any way, but
Right. Well, I understand, Commissioner, but I guess what I'm saying is we're not the police of the commission, so you would have to self-enforce that. I mean,
You'd have to police your own members, that's
Yeah.
kind of, because
Exactly.
the county mayor or IT can't overstep into.
Yeah. But
The
I
legislative
understand
body.
what you're saying. I understand
Right.
the concerns. I read through the resolution, and I don't. Elected officials don't have supervisory authority over commissioners. You're
Oh, they're
your own elected official, and you don't over the county mayor, and you don't over the clerk or whomever. So we're just trying to come up with something that would work, so everybody understands, you know, what we're dealing with, because there's really no one right now that's responsible for it. So we're just trying to clarify.
Come up with a possible approach. I mean, I know that this approach works, and I don't know if other committees have done that, but when we had our nonprofit ad hoc committee meeting a week or so ago, I contacted Dennis. I said, can I get the equipment, make sure we have it? I'd like to learn how to use it as well. So Dennis helped me set it up and run it, and not that it wasn't flawless, but it worked, and it's not difficult. So I certainly believe that anybody in this room or any other committee chairperson could do the same thing. As far as the logistics of different meeting times, generally speaking, I think this is probably about as early as any of our standing committees or the committees covered in the resolution meet 4 o'clock, but many of them don't meet until 6 or later. So working with your department to secure the equipment, how do you see logistically that working?
Yeah, I thought we had talked about like maybe getting one of those
Something
fire
like box in
safes.
here.
Yeah, like that we just have a code and we could stick it over there in the corner or something.
So that other staff members that are here would have that
Mhm.
code to access it, and then it would just be a matter of being here a little bit early to
To send
plug it
it.
all in and turn it on, which isn't half an hour early, it's 5 minutes early, right? To get it all set up.
It's seems pretty simple. It's not a real highly technical capabilities to run the thing, so that's why we were just trying to, we were grasping and trying to come up with a solution where everybody had access and they could, be trained, which training is fairly simple, right, Dennis?
Yeah.
And then, of course, he would be responsible for downloading, which I think that's something to be done during the day.
It can be during the day.
So it's not, you're not having to pay somebody to stay over, because typically, we don't have overtimes built into these budgets, so you have some discretionary, very little, and then, of course, it's comp time. The problem with that is if you start applying comp time, then you gotta let people off. So, we kind of did the math, and it could run into a couple of days a week if you somebody stayed there and used the recording equipment. So, that, I don't know how well that would work out for IT. That would be a very expensive proposition.
Are there other, if this is Plan A, are there any other scenarios that we want to consider in terms of, I understand, and there's different, Dennis doesn't have to be at all of our committee meetings. Typically, David or Leah and staff are one of those two groups is at every meeting. What would that, have we tried to look at what that scenario like? Because we certainly talked about it at one point in time that it was a possibility, but we don't want a professional staff person being laden with that additional.
Let me say this to you. I think if you, I think there's some real pitfalls, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Most of the time, legal is going to be at these meetings. If you require them to record things, then that's going to be a big burden on them, and that could have some real ramifications in case something happened later on. That could create major conflicts of interest for the law department. I don't know that you want to do that if you think it over in the long run, because there may be people who disagree with what's recorded or how it's recorded, and that puts him in a very difficult position. That's a decision you may make. This is the scenario, we gave you one scenario.
Mm-hmm.
We're not saying that's what you have to do, I'm just proposing that to you, because I think there was some confusion on the last meeting. Nobody really picked up the pieces and did anything with
Well,
it.
and I think part of that, though, is because we created a resolution that outlined what we were wanting to do with the OWL, but we never said
Yeah.
how we
exactly
were
gonna
going
do
to
Right.
do it and who was going to do it.
Or any funding involved. So, that's another issue.
Correct.
So, I don't think that's a wise use of resources to get attorneys to use the OWL or IT, but, that's up to your discretion. If that's the route you want to go,
Could we look at a lower salary band staff member or set of staff members amongst which maybe they could share that responsibility?
Well, I
and
think
see-
clearly you could hire somebody for $10, $12 an hour and hire somebody, maybe even retire, not even pay benefits as far as insurance and retirement. That would be a lot better, I think, use of resources as opposed to somebody else. Because all these people have jobs and clearly they're busy, and I just think that would be make a lot more sense economically rather than using highly skilled, highly paid personnel. That's another option. I mean, there's a lot of options.
Could we go to Ball State and go to their technology department and get some kid and give them an internship to do this? Or?
I'm sure that would be acceptable. I know there's somebody that would do it at a reasonable, either a senior or some student or somebody it'd be much more cost effective to do that way than to use the existing departments, which is basically boils down to legal and IT. So,
Mr. Chairman, I got comments. Commissioner
Okay.
Fink? So I'm looking through the minutes of the last meeting where, Madam Law Director, you stated that this resolution does not allow for committee chairmen to opt in or out of recording their respective committee. So I'm just going to take you, at that. what
That
means.
was the plan y'all had
Yeah, and
from this
so,
committee.
But I'm going by what you stated. The resolution does not allow for the committee chairman to opt out. So I guess it's just, I'm glad to see, as far as the responsibilities, I do like this part of this policy. The county commission chairperson or designated commissioner is responsible for checking in and out the hardware, as well as set up and recording of the meetings. I mean, the whole goal of this was to make it as simple as pushing a button and recording, and that simple. I personally disagree with any, trends towards hiring somebody to do this or paying anybody to do this. I don't think it's necessary or fiscally responsible. I mean, if we had to, we appropriated $15,000 for this, which if we haven't even spent half of it. So there is already monies funded. So should that be the decision, there is funds available should you guys want to proceed that way. But I personally would object to that based on the intended goal. I feel that I don't feel it's burdensome. I mean, when we have several paid county staff members at every meeting, to even possibly be a backup as far as the chairperson being responsible for setting up the OWL and starting recording a meeting. The whole intent of this is simply to make it available for people who can't be here, for citizens who can't attend, and so you can just see what's going on and listen to it. So that's really the only simple thing by doing it. And as the Madam Law Director had said previously, that we don't even have a resolution for the main chambers, but we do that every month, usually without glitches or hitches. And so that's just kind of how we operate. But I'm appreciative that we're outlining some things, and I do like the responsibilities, but I think that should just be upon the committee chairman. I do like the idea of having some kind of central location that it could be checked in or out. I guess my only question would that be is security of the password or whatever, of who would know it or how it would be accessible, or how many people it's accessible to. Would that just be the chairman of each committee would have that access? I mean,
I think every commissioner ought to be able to have access to it.
well, that's fine, but you where I'm going. I just wouldn't want it to disappear one day because
Right.
I'm just thinking safety on equipment we've invested in. Less is more sometimes, but I'm not trying to restrict people's access,
Right.
but I'm trying to be conscientious of a publicly shared lockbox that
Sure.
maybe Dennis wasn't the only keeper of the
Yeah.
key, kind of, so to speak. But I do like that idea. Obviously, I've not read through this fully, but yeah, that's just my two thoughts, is the fact that it should be on the chairman. I don't think it's a big deal to have somebody do it, and I don't think we should pay somebody to do it. So I think it's pretty straightforward.
Like I said, it's just a proposal, and so,
I'm just looking for something that is logistically reliable.
right.
And so with,
And
13 or so
right.
standing committees, zoning and planning, and then our ad hoc committees, got 13-ish committees right now that we would be wanting to continue to record on a current ongoing basis. And so, yeah, they're just, there's a little more, what's that word, not risk, but when you've got that many different people involved in it.
You know, the vote was pretty favorable for this, and the commission took on the responsibility, and they said they wanted it done, and this is a pilot project. It's a good way to get started, I think. I think if, you make even more commitment to the future, and, this works out well, and you want this program to stay in place, then that probably would need to morph into something a little bit more permanent, but, and I do appreciate Commissioner Mansfield's comments, because this is something that is a good way to get started, and you're not committing a lot of funds to it, because even the funds you committed were basically committed to buy equipment, so we just have to go through budget and transfer that over to personnel, and well, he wouldn't, I know you.
Capital project fund.
Yeah, so it's capital project fund, so it'd have to be reoccurring, have to come out of the general fund. But regardless, I think, what I could read by the resolution, this was the intent to get this program started. It's a pilot program, and we'll see how it works out and go from there.
Dennis, I have a question. This is a pure curiosity question. How many views are we getting on these videos?
Not many.
I didn't know they had been put out there, so is there a public link on the website, or, like, I didn't know the ad hoc committee was recorded.
It's on the same link that everybody got in the very beginning. It's the Sumner County ITD YouTube channel. I can resend it out to everybody.
Is there a link on the Sumner County,
No.
Sumner TN?
From
So
Sumner
that's kind of
tags
part
where
of
we
the
got
problem, I think,
the.
right there.
No,
Yeah.
there's no link yet.
I mean, it's not accessible, so.
People's not gonna look at something they don't know there.
I think that's a really good
But,
point, because
I
I
mean,
think that's
so here
part
we
of
are,
operationalizing.
but
things
here we
that
are talking
haven't had a
about
chance to operationalize
how we're
yet.
going to get this recorded. And I mean, I'm not using this to attack you, but we haven't even defined how we were going to get it out to the public yet.
Right.
So I think we're kind of building a puzzle by working on the center without trying to get the edges done. I mean, there's no point in recording all of this and then just putting it in a drawer somewhere and kind of forgetting about it. So we got to figure out multiple different ways. We're trying to solve a couple of problems here. I mean, we got to get it up on the website and let citizens know that it's there, and figure out who's going to be in charge of the equipment. So I mean, there's a lot of different factors here.
Do we really want to put it on the website when it's still in its infancy, where we're still developing that idea, though? I mean, we can
Yes.
put it out there,
I think
but
so.
if it gets discontinued, then the public goes, okay, what happened to this? So I left that to your decision.
Yeah,
Yes,
and we
I-
can take a vote on that, but I would agree
It's a
with
YouTube
Commissioner
video.
Mansfield.
It's a YouTube video.
And then how long are we going to store these videos? Are we storing these are we going to have them forever, or are we going to keep them for 2 years or 3 years?
That hadn't been decided on
Yes, as long as YouTube allows us to keep it, that would be my.
So we're going to keep them for.
It's just a
60
link to
years?
YouTube.
It's a link to YouTube.
Yeah,
either. So the policy should read that we're not maintaining a permanent copy of these. Because if we do, these are very large files.
Right,
Yeah.
which is
So right now, we
store.
have a copy and you've loaded it to YouTube,
Yeah,
correct?
right now we
Okay.
I'm not sure I asked this question before, and there was no answer, so I don't know the answer. Meeting 2
But
months
how
ago.
long to store it?
That was my question back in September. Is there a statute of limitations, how long we do this?
Say 1 year on
Um,
here. At the very bottom it says,
But we can-
retention of raw video for up
Right.
to 1 year.
Well,
That's
and I
what
think
we-
that's the question is, once he loads it to YouTube, then how long are you going to keep that file? And
Are we going to keep these stored on there for as long as YouTube exists? Are we going to say, it's 15 years down the road and we probably don't need videos up there from 2019 anymore? How long is Dennis going to store the footage, the backup footage?
And I think that's
and-
two different questions. One is how long are you leaving it on YouTube?
Right.
And one of them is how long does Dennis keep it in his, whatever he keeps it in?
Yeah.
Does YouTube have any kind of limit on the number of videos a channel can have?
No.
Mm-mm.
And they don't give you a
Not
date on how
currently.
long you can maintain those files there either. It's completely controlled by them.
And it's not secured or
And it's not
guaranteed
secured
or anything.
Guaranteed of any way. And as I stated, these
They could
files-
decide to shut the channel down if they wanted to.
Yeah, they could. And these files are very large, so after a period of time, we'll start buying drive space
I was
for
gonna
these
say, so
files.
one of the pending expenditures would be
Yes.
some additional drive space to store these
How
longer
long do we
term, because
store
I
the
think
main
long,
ones?
what's that?
How long do we store the main committee?
The
commission-
minutes?
No, the commission
Um,
videos that we record every month, how long do we store those? What's the policy on that?
We pay Arbor Media, certain amount, I don't know, it's probably just like YouTube, they're on theirs. Now, we copy each month, we make a copy of the video and keep it locally.
Well, that's what we want to do here.
But we, until, as long as they let us.
Jeremy, how long do you want to keep them? I feel like you're the one that's kind of driving the, I want this forever, so like,
Yeah,
it's
I mean, as
forever,
long as-
forever, so like in 2050,
Yeah,
you
well,
still want the minutes
I
from
mean,
now?
yeah, I mean, part of the Public Records Act in Tennessee passed.
But this is
to
an
make
official
it-
public
Yeah,
record.
This is not an official public record. That's the.
If
So-
you want this to become
so the
official
clerk's
public record,
office
you have
does
to go
not
to the
have to
state
keep
house
this.
and ask them to make this official public record. That's official public record. This is extra.
According to the Open Records Act, Tennessee, public record is a photo. It's anything produced by the county, period. I've already spoken with the Open Records Act. I've spoken with Comptroller's Office about this. Spoken with the Tennessee Coalition of Open Government. Anything that this county produces is an open record, a public record, whether it's a document, a photo, a graphic, a file,
I
a
disagree with
video.
that.
I don't care what you
Well,
say.
and that's two different questions. Let's take
Well,
it.
he asked the question, how long do I want to keep this for? The goal of the Open Records Act is to make it as easily accessible as possible.
And that's, and we're not questioning that, but like, and let's take something completely separate from this. The records that the county commission keeps of vacation days that are out there, the days the building is closed for holidays. That's probably kept 10 years. If somebody shows up and makes a public records request for what days we were closed in 2008, it may not exist anymore.
Right.
And that's not an open records violation. It's just we have to provide what we still have, and there are certain things that we keep, like automobile accidents. When our, if a county truck hits a mailbox, we create a really nice file. But once the statute of limitations has passed, we may keep the information about that particular driver, because if they still work for us, but the details and the witness statements and things like that, multiple things, we may not keep anymore because it's not necessary.
Right.
It's,
That's the statute.
and then there's all sorts of statutes where you turn stuff over to archives and those kinds of things that are official records, but that's not really,
To answer your question, I would want to keep them as long as possible. I have design files I've had for 20 years on Dropbox and Google Drive storage. I've never, ever deleted a single file that I've worked on a project in 20 years as a professional designer. As a county commissioner, as a citizen, I would like to see these videos stored forever.
But that gets expensive. Am I wrong, Dennis?
It can.
That's gonna be, something we're gonna have to look at funding to keep these for forever.
Yeah, and I think that's the key right there, Commissioner. I think we'll do anything you want.
I mean, this could
We'll
easily
spend
more.
$1 million on it.
Yeah.
But in the end, you gotta decide what you want, and then you gotta provide funding. You can't just say, well, we're gonna pass a new resolution, and they do this very same way in the state. It has a physical note to it. They determine what that is, and if they pass a law, then it has a physical note, they have to fund it. So we'll do whatever you want us to do, but you've got to provide the appropriate funding to do it, and you've got to decide what the scope's gonna be. I don't have a problem with that.
We fund
You
things
can't just
all
pass
the time.
something and just say,
Right, yeah.
we're not gonna fund it. Well, we're not gonna maintain it because we don't have funds to maintain it.
Well, we've got funds to maintain it, about $7,000 right now, if we need to, for infrastructure.
Is
We've
that
got-
true? Mr.
Well, we passed a $15,000.
It's
Right.
under capital projects.
That was
and
a-
hobbies for equipment.
Okay, got it.
Doesn't count for hardware or software?
It would only count for hardware and software that's capitalized, not. What about
Well, no, we're talking about like a hard drive. So if we needed to buy some hard drive space to store this, so if in the course of this year, I'm just estimating out of about 13 committees, and if they meet about an hour and once a month, that's probably could be about 160 hours of video, and I don't have any idea, but we could, get some estimates as to how much space that would require, if it's feasible to keep that, or if after each year we need to buy a drive and download it, leave it on YouTube, but then keep that as an archive. And that would be the thing that we could probably quantify. And would that be capitalizable?
If a
Capital,
project
is that a
is-
word? capital.
If a project's over $7,500 and has multiple years of a multi-year life, then yes, we can capitalize it. That's the two requirements.
Was it 7 years?
It's multi-years. of
So,
year.
I mean, it might
At
cost
least two.
a few $100s to get enough to
It
have,
could.
to offload 160 hours of video. So we're talking about a few $100s. It's $252, by the way, to buy a slightly big safe, if we want a keypad entry safe to put in here. So I don't know if we need to, that wouldn't be capitalizable then either.
Yeah, and I think that
Just
makes
look that
sense,
up.
Commissioner, because
I did.
you're talking about funding the scope of what you want to do. We
Right.
don't have a problem with that. I think it's just to say we're going to do it, and then it's like, okay, well,
Yeah.
somebody's got to do it, somebody's got to be responsible. If you want it stored for a length of time, that's another cost. If you want equipment, whatever. And I think we're willing to do that. It's just got to try to figure out how to do it, who's going to do it, who's going to be responsible, and then what the cost is.
Sure. I mean, I think it'd be clean if once a year we are on some kind of rolling schedule. You know, so maybe after 2 years, you take that whole year off and you archive it by putting it to a hard drive, clear up the space, or however you want to think of it, so that past year files are archived and saved. We still have the YouTube indefinitely until they say we can't do it anymore. But I think we could put some cost around that. It could be operationally part of IT departments, you know, between, you know, making the equipment available and training, and then ongoing updates, like, you know, software updates and such on those computers, or, you know, that along with now if we come up with an intended protocol for storing the old files. That's pretty manageable, I would think. I don't know, do we need to make that a kind of a motion within our group that we would request that be maybe added to, I mean, so do we want to try to approve this policy that you put forward, or is this just, this is an operational
This-
guidelines to?
Well, I think this is for your consideration. If you adopt this, and we'll, at least we can move forward, we'll know who's responsible, we can start setting up procedures. I think we have budget later on this evening. I'm sure they would be glad to add that to whatever request you have, but I think that would be appropriate, right, David? So if you say, well, we want X amount of dollars for safe, you know, give us up to a certain amount of money, and then we'll go out and purchase what we need, storage, whatever you want. If you want to get started, I think we need to move forward. You know, we need a
Yeah.
We got to start
We need a
reining
path
this
to move
in
forward.
and
Right.
putting a little bit of
yeah.
a plan in place.
And then, of course, you can, this policy, this would be fine to pass it with this committee,
Right,
correct?
but I would suggest that it go into the full commission so that it could,
Just your
So
policy?
that we are making clear
Everybody's-
that.
yeah, everybody's
chair-
on the
committee
same
chairs
page, yes.
understand.
Yeah, that's fine.
Retention, so I mean, there's a couple wordsmithing things that I think, I don't know, are we even potentially able to make a motion to adopt this policy today, or do we want to look this over and come back to another
I
committee
think-
meeting?
I
Have you
think-
seen a copy of it, Mo?
Here's my suggestion. Take it for what it's worth. I think this is kind of, not to quote Nancy Pelosi, but this is one of those things that we're going to have to pass something to put some sort of rules in place on how these things are going to be recorded. Because otherwise, we're going to have another month of unrecorded committee after we've already passed their initial resolution. So even if we pass this and we work on it next month and we come back and we cut half of this out, put something new in that we like better, and pass another resolution, this gives us a starting point to go forward with. Because otherwise, we're going to kind of be out there in limbo again. I mean, there's nothing to say that legislative will use this next meeting because there's not a plan in place.
Yeah, I would like, out of this policy, I would like, if we can, to strike the first phrase under the second paragraph of the scope where it says, whilst there is no obligation to do so. I think in the scope, we can simply say, in accordance with Resolution 1910-02.
That works.
And then if we could, in the very last full bullet point where it says retention of raw video for up to 1 year on Sumner County Archives, if we could clarify that, retention of raw video stored locally for 1 year and archived annually, or something to that nature. I don't know, Dennis, if you have better language, procedurally, how we would state that, but basically, keep it local for a year and archive a year at a time, unless there's a better way to operationalize that.
All right, go over the first one again one more time. A little faster than that was. What'd you say on the first?
Oh, well, is that last bullet, are you already got the
No,
phrase
go-
there, but
go-
then down that last bullet point, I just said if we could say something to the effect of retention of raw video for 1 year, not up to, but for 1 year on site, and then archived annually thereafter.
Yeah, so you basically
Maintained
saying-
on a hard drive, archived on a hard drive annually.
So basically you're saying not on where it says Sumner County Archives, just Sumner County website.
Well, it would be different than that, because we want to have the hard copy, or the actual file locally.
Correct.
Plus the YouTube.
But I guess my question is, Dennis, what defined locally, is that the website, or is that just a server that's not accessible as far as locally?
Yeah, because it's on, I think, as far as the website, it's going to be the YouTube link,
Whilst there's no.
and then
obligation.
locally
We're
it would
not
be on a hard
officially
drive.
linking this on Sumner County.
Gotcha, I forgot, I'm sorry.
Is
Third paragraph.
We're just linking out
by
to YouTube.
resolution
Yeah.
or something
Because
like
keeping it on
that?
our website would be Ashland Police.
Whilst
Well,
there's
yeah,
no
it's a lot of
obligation.
storage,
to
storage, we don't want to do
Yeah,
that.
strike,
Yeah.
start in accordance.
Oh, okay, yeah, in accordance, okay. All right, that's pretty straightforward.
I mean, I personally like this too. I was kind of playing devil's advocate as far as the procedure. I like the idea of engaging our committee chairs to assist us with this process, and I agree that they were supportive
this is
of the overarching goal of
This
this.
is a cost-effective way to do it, and you know who's
Because
responsible.
this can't become we're spending thousands and thousands of dollars on this year, because I don't think it's necessary. I mean,
Right.
we found the owl, and Dennis did that, and it was, literally thousands of dollars cheaper than what we thought it would be. And I would hate to take the money that we save from that and throw it at, I mean, I hate to be this way, but throwing it at a specialized employee that's going to be here for a couple hours every night.
Right. Well, okay, now, if you like this policy, then that's 2 questions have to be answered. That we need to probably go to budget, and it'd be better to do it this evening if you're gonna get started. Device to put it in, like I say, that you could all open, there'll be a cost associated with that. And then how much storage do you need, do you think it would cost to store it and then download it at the end of the year to get it started? What do you think that would be, roughly? And aim high, and then we could do up to, because we got how much left in that budget?
I looked at it. I think these are.
How much?
Almost $9,000.
$9,000 left.
Haven't run out kinda.
So, I mean, that's way more money than we need.
Way more money we do.
But we need to make an appropriation, if we're gonna do it, through budget, so we can purchase the equipment.
Right now, we kinda got into a gray area because the owls and the stuff ended up under 7,500, that's something me and Dennis talked about.
Okay.
We was about to push it into his budget earlier anyway, because
Okay.
we're really probably the same, and the other stuff just needs to come out of the general fund.
You think it does?
We're
Okay.
going a few $100.
I have no idea what a safe would cost, but I can't imagine it being over $1,000.
Deanne said she just looked it up, and she would get one for $255.
Okay.
The
that's
safe
what I'm
is
saying. I just was throwing out
12 by 14 by 13, so might need a bigger one than that.
Yeah, so let's just say $1,000, devil's advocate. We're gonna get as cheap as we can.
We have
And
2
then-
owls, right?
Yeah, there's 2 owls, aren't there?
Well, only one would be storage.
Okay, only one
Yeah,
would
we're
be in
gonna
there,
store
okay.
the safety.
We'll put it right over
In the
there.
corner.
We wanna store it where there's a camera area that we can see who's getting out of the safe. There's the, I thought those were off except for election.
We don't have access to those cameras.
That's what I'm saying, you may wanna store it somewhere. We could always, if we have.
Well, we'll do something. We'll put it in a.
Somewhere that's just not in a
convenient
locked
place.
office,
Yeah.
yeah.
So.
Is there a spot in the main chambers?
Well, I think
Those
that's
aren't always
not
reported.
probably a good place, not an appropriate looking place to put it, but we could put it maybe in the back. I don't know. We'll figure out something.
Break room
It's-
over there, right?
Break room, that's a
Here's
possibility.
got a camera.
So just say up to 1,000 per safe, and then what else costs are associated?
Okay, and then that last sentence, if I'm listening to
She
right,
did it,
it's
yeah.
gonna say, raw video shall be uploaded to YouTube and retained in computer files that are placed in storage annually.
That are maintained on-site for 1 year and placed in archives
archived
annually.
Annually, okay.
Yeah.
For freeing up storage space. But not get rid of the data.
Is
So
there
it's
any other
stored-
costs that you need associated with that?
Did you get that, Dave?
So we go to budget.
Not that I can think of, however, the other item they should add to this, outside of cost, would be, where do you want it advertised?
So I think we need a link through the county commission site, through Mr. Kemp's side of the website.
Oh, I need the link when you're ready to go.
That, and I think I've been trying to find a good solid list of all of our Sumner County committees, and I know it's out there, but I can't find it right now because I'm getting lost on our own websites.
Well, and
Trying to
and there's
find-
one that we have.
I'm
that
not looking
we
at
keep
you for any
updated,
reason.
But it's not been updated recently because of this delay in getting some of the committee chairman in.
Got it.
We'll
Okay,
get
maybe
it-
that's
we'll
why.
We're
get
just
it
waiting
to y'all.
on financial management, that's
Yeah.
it.
Oh,
And
to
here's
know all the
another-
chair and
Another
co-chair.
problem you have committees created, and then they die.
Right.
And committees created, and then they die. So it's gonna be hard to always keep a running update, but maybe by
And
watching
then
the
note-
owl and the videos, everybody will know what they're.
Dan, in your notebook you got when you became a commissioner.
Yeah.
That's all
The current,
the
right.
current committees, except for the ad hocs, because those have been added.
Right.
And then we'll have you an updated list.
I was
after
trying
the
to
commission-
forward it to somebody else who was looking to volunteer for a county committee.
Mhm.
And so I was trying to get him a list of all the
I
current.
don't know exactly where it is on one.
I know. I'm not the best at finding
I'm
things.
wrong.
I try, really, but I get myself lost.
All right, so.
Any other
I think that's the only
amendments to
associated
this
cost.
policy?
So the $1,000 for the safe is the only associated cost so far.
I would just send it up to $1,000.
Okay.
That's gonna cover a safe and it's gonna cover hard drive storage space as well for a couple
I think that, hadn't he got
I think we
that
need to
in
break
budget
that
already?
into two different,
So-
like I have a purchaser for the safe and a purchaser for the.
The only thing we need is
Hardware.
money for the safe, I think, right now.
years. Okay, because obviously we can come back
Yeah.
for storage later.
Yeah.
So is there a motion, Mr. Chairman, on any of that?
I make a motion to approve up to $1,000 for a safe for this equipment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
But, okay.
Thank you, Dave.
I'm just still on the floor of the motion.
Give that to Dennis, then, so he can take that.
I'm still looking at safes. I don't know why I'm looking at safes. We can get-
So. the
Any other
policy-
changes for the policy?
Other than just, I guess addressing having Mr. Kemp put the link directly on our commissioner
That's a
website
good
so that
point.
it's accessible to the public as a responsibility. If we're outlining.
Should we
things.
add that as another, responsibility to get the county commissioner chair, the ITD?
I guess
And then do we want to add do,
Once you create the link, it won't change.
Correct.
So.
it's not a big deal.
That's-
The ITD is,
I'm just formally requesting it.
yeah, they'll
It's part of the
provide a
process.
link to all these. I agree, that's important. So should we add a final bullet point that's, where it says the ITD is responsible for, a final bullet point saying, add a link to the, no?
Yes.
We can just do it.
I think we can do that. I don't think Mr. Kemp's not gonna contact the commission. He's a pretty good guy.
I'm sure. Well, we're all good people. We didn't need any of this then, right?
That's true.
So we had the link, it's just a bullet point, provide public link on commission website.
It's
Part of
educational,
responsibility.
because,
Okay.
the same message of communicating to the rest of our commissioners that this is the expectation of them, then
Why
they
don't you
can
Why
understand.
don't you request county clerk to provide link? I don't think you can order it around.
Okay, that's right. You're good, Mr. Camper.
Leah, have you gotten all these changes?
Dennis has got the one I did, so Dennis, if you can add that about having the county clerk, to it. And what I would recommend you do, since legislative meets right after this and there's not
Yeah.
time to get it updated, we'll just ask that it,
Pass
Mr. Kemp,
through.
we can put it under, report of the chair.
If
For next Monday's
For
commission
Monday
meeting?
Commission meeting, this resolution.
the chair agrees to it, I don't add anything to the agenda.
Is this a resolution or is
Is-
this just policy?
Well,
I
it's
think
a-
it's just policy.
It's a policy, but at the same time, we need to have it adopted in the minutes so that
resolution?
we know that
Okay.
it's
Well, do we
I think
want to
it's
run it
really-
through legislative then?
I think we've kind of back and worked everything through legislative up to this point, and I think we need to continue to do that since this was born out of
He's
legislative.
just saying that we can't really get it
But we
updated
can't-
into
but we can't get
legislative.
it to legislative tonight.
But we can make them aware that there is something that can be on the floor of the committee.
I mean, if you want
Is
to,
has legislative met?
they meet at 5:30
Well, I'll
tonight.
just add it to the agenda, if the chairman.
Well, we're
wants.
not gonna have an updated version of it.
But I mean,
Okay.
I've sat through them all anyways. I can sit there and tell
Okay.
them, these are the
Okay, then
changes that
that's
we've
fine. You do
made.
that, we can. then
Yeah, I
we
think
can-
that's smart.
Yeah, okay,
Then it goes through as a resolution.
okay, that's fine. We just need to do that, okay.
Cool.
Animal policies,
We'll explain it to them, right, Lou?
Yeah.
okay, that's fine with me?
Keep forgetting him. This owl's right here.
So they
I gotta keep up my good posture.
Gotta be civil.
Right. Okay. Anything else?
Good to
Do you
vote?
ever actually vote?
Okay,
Not yet.
right, well,
Uh,
there's no motion on.
So I'll
the
make a
floor.
motion to adopt this policy with the amendments as we've discussed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Do we have to set a new meeting date, Leah, or are we just gonna let this roll over into the
I don't,
same time
unless
date
you've
next
got
month?
something else you need to discuss, I'd say call them when you need it.
Okay.
I will make comment, Mr. Chairman. I think
Sure.
that all of you have done a really good job on coming up with a way to really fulfill your vision of recording committee meetings and doing it very cost effective and taking some responsibility. So I appreciate what you've done. I think you all did a great job. I really mean it.
And supreme
Sometimes,
kudos to
you
Mr.
know, and yeah, Dennis came up with a great fix, but we know Dennis is great anyway, and he's got a lot more hair than I do.
And I think once we get the money from David and we get the safe, Dennis probably needs to just send out an email if he could to remind everybody that you can do the training, and then we'll have to figure out what the code is. Or
Next Monday, we have pictures available from 4 until 7.
That's correct.
Would we want to make training available during that time frame as well?
Sure, we can do that.
Could be an all admin evening if people can come by and do that.
Great idea.
Anybody that wants to learn.
Okay.
yeah, that'll
Can we
work.
communicate that one way or another?
Is that
to-
Monday?
It's Monday 4 to 7, if I'm not mistaken, right? Is that where Mr.
Right.
Murray's coming? All about efficiency.
Okay.
Great. How will we notify everybody? Just as part of our, sending out the agenda, notify commissioners that they can
We
come in.
can
for
do an
training?
email,
Okay.
just. Mayor Holt, why don't you have your office send out
An email
to everybody for the
on
training?
training,
4 to 7,
4 to 7.
Mr. Carey's office.
Mr. Carey's office.
Or here, I don't care.
Where are we doing photos?
Photos here.
In
So I
this
guess you
building?
could set it up and train them on
Right,
this table.
usually
How about
right
that?
Yeah, I
here.
could record the whole thing, see
Yeah.
what commissioners say about
Yeah.
the people taking pictures.
Yeah, they're glamour shots.
I think this would be ideal, to do it here in the,
Okay.
Okay. Or
and
so,
I'd hate to
got
turn
it.
it on and off 1,000 times, but that would be the ideal training if they actually go through the whole setup.
Maybe we could set up a karaoke thing. for
Oh,
commissioners
I mean,
to
that would
karaoke.
be,
That'd be kind of cool.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, and then you can, test it out.
I don't actually think karaoke's a great idea, but
I've resolved that problem too. It runs now without any issue.
fabulous. Okay. Motion?
Motion
Adjourn?
to adjourn.
Second.
Okay.